Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, I know it's after lunch. There's 3 other sessions going on, but this is the best session. Yeah, let's start with that. We're going to talk about Fanatical fans, how to create them from your brand to service. And having gone through myself, my name again is George Bureau, WMEP, business consultant, doing strategy, etc. Having been through a major transformation of a company and leading it from being manufacturing-oriented, very internal-oriented, to being customer-focused, this stuff has a special part in my place, in my heart. And strategy can lead to an 80-inch machine. It can lead to a specific capability. But I'll tell you, and I hope some of you experienced it, the ability to replicate your culture, your people, how you're to do business with, and the relationship you have with customers are sometimes the most difficult things. And before I introduce our 2 speakers, 2 questions for you to think about. It's Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock, and on the back of someone's deck, several of your employees gather. What do they say about your company? Good, bad, or indifferent? When your employees get together, or when your customers run into one another, what are they saying? And I will challenge all of us to say the best sales force, the best marketing account we could ever have are employees and how they project in the communities and customers who talk about you in a very positive manner as relates to the ease of doing business. So with that, what I'm going to do is I've got the pleasure of introducing 2 Fanatical speakers. Okay? Bridget over here at my right, she's co-founder and CEO of Guardian Business Solutions. It's Milwaukee-based. It specializes in technology-driven solutions for manufacturing companies. So right down our alley. In addition to leading the company, she already has some extra time. She's a thought leader in the manufacturing industry in the areas of process optimization, cost reduction, inventory controls, employee performance. She holds 2 certifications for APIX, Certified Supply Chain Professional, and Certified in Production Inventory Management. So welcome, Bridget.
Thank you.
Okay. And our other speaker, Christine over here, McMahon, on my left, is a business strategist, co-founder of Leadership Institute at the Waukesha County Technical College Center of Business Performance Solutions. She's got one of the longest titles on her business card, I think. She's also a longtime columnist for the Biz Times, an award-winning business magazine and online business news organization. A Boston native, Christine has been in Milwaukee home since 1993. So welcome, Bridget and Christine. We're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me back here, Scott? Okay. Actually, the last 2 rows, I think the handouts didn't make it that far, so if you want to grab one from the front, please do, so you can follow along. Okay, so thank you very much for coming to our session today. We're super excited to go through this topic with you. I think it's very important for the manufacturing community to have some Fanatical fans, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So, by a show of got ahead of myself. But by a show of hands, how many people do you think, as our introduction was so eloquently stated, what happens on 4:30 on the afternoon on a Saturday? What are your employees saying about you? How many people will someone tell if they are really super happy? What do you think the average is? Is it 1? How many think it's 1? How about 10? Too many? Well, 4. 4 seem like a good number? Okay. How about customers or employees? They're unsatisfied. How many people are they going to tell? Right. So, exactly. So the happy people are going to tell between 4 and 6 additional people. They're going to brag about you. They're going to be fanatical in every way. But the people that are negative are going to tell 3 times as many people. So that's why this topic is so important. So what do we mean by fanatical? Well, the definition, someone filled with excessive single-minded zeal, right? They're just really, really super happy about the product or the process. So here's our, I love your brand. So this guy represents what we want our customers to look like at the end of this session. Some other fans you might think of are fans of different brands, like this woman here with her Apple product. You might have different political figures that you're very fanatical about, not picking any party here. Or you might have the Beatles. They had fanatical fans, right? Remember the women, they used to just faint and they were just really excited. So that's the kind of fans that we want. So our agenda for this topic, we're gonna go through, oh, I forgot our big fans, right? There's a fanatical fan, Green Bay Packers. And if you happen to be from the other two areas around us, there's some fanatical fans for you as well. All right. So our agenda, as I started to state, was we're going to go through two different types of fans. We're going to go through our internal fans, our customers, our employees, or we're going to go through our external fans. So what can we do in each of these areas? And Christine will go through some, and I will go through some. We'll kind of tag team here for you. These two different types of fans. And then we're going to go through what are the things that they want versus what are the things that they need, or the, that are going to make them above and beyond. Let me see, okay. And how are you doing as a company meeting their expectations, as well as going that next step? And then last, we're going to go through how to bridge the gap between the wants and the needs and the expectations. Okay, so the first thing, if you take your handout, there should be a little section there for you that you can write on if you wish. But what I want you to think about is the last time you guys dealt with either a supplier of yours, or recently was Christmas, so we could go back to that time. When you were buying a product, what were the 4 or 5 things that you just expect? You expect from that transaction. So kind of just write those down. I'll give you just about 30 seconds or so to do that. That's good. All right, so if you're done, how many of you expect a quality product by show of hands? Right? I mean, everybody pretty much is raising their hands here because we expect quality. It's no longer something that we sacrifice. How about competitive pricing? Was that something you were looking for? By show of hands, yeah, pretty much everybody again. On-time delivery. Yeah, so especially at Christmas time, right? We want to make sure our presents get there in time to put under the tree. Service. Was that another thing that, yep, again, most people, if you expect good service. It's no longer enough to say, I have good quality service. It's just an expectation. How about trusted relationship? Did anybody write that down? Oh, a couple in the back. Okay, a couple in the front. So we want to go to our supplier or whoever we're purchasing from, and we want to have that trusted relationship. We want to have that, know that they're going to do a good job for us. All right. So Christine is going to just do a quick audit for you. I'll turn off my mic.
So if you turn to page 2 in your handout, you'll find a chart that looks very similar to this. And on the left-hand side of that matrix, you'll see product, price, delivery, service, and relationship. Those are the 5 areas that most customers or prospects look for in terms of quality of experience. And on the top, you can see that there are 3 columns. The first is you can be competitive. What competitive means is you're just as good as your competition. Distinctive means that you're better than your competition. And innovative means that you are a leader or the leader in the industry. So in essence, you are the leader that everyone else measures the bar against. You are the best of the best. So we'd like for you to do 2 activities with this. The first activity is we'd like for you to stand in the position of your prospect or customer looking at your company or your organization. And imagine that as you think from their perspective, how would you evaluate your company from their perspective relative to product, price, delivery, service, and relationship? And based upon the corresponding one, so for example, if product is your first step from your customer's perspective. Would they rate you competitive, and if so, put an X in that box. Would you be distinctive? Would you be better than your competition? So an X in that box. Or are you the innovator in the marketplace? Put an X in that box. So one box per column for each of the 5. Yes, sir.
Question around price, because price and value go together, and you could have a high price but extraordinary value.
Correct.
Right? So in that case, what would you be?
So the quality, the extraordinary value could be a number of different things. It could be the quality of the product, because it's offering you something better that saves them time. It may save them, it may streamline their system. So if they're going to put that part in something else and now they don't have to configure it, but it's ready for them now. So that price point is relative, but it's very important for some manufacturers because that is their point of distinction. So we use that as a separate category. Value is interpreted along that continuum there. Good question.
I assume you're kind of talking about it, looking at it as an 80-20, because everybody might have a product or whatever that isn't quite priced correctly, so I'm thinking you're looking at the whole business in general as customers.
So
We happen to make 1,500-1,600 different products with 4,500 customers. So
as a general, yes.
It's
As a general, because we could go through each one of the specifics, and you might have categories of products, and the response to this might be different depending upon how that product is configured and who that target audience is.
Great.
Thank you. So if you've all finished, it looks like you have. I'm seeing many eyes here. There's a second part to this. The first part was I wanted you to look at these areas here from the perspective of your customer. Now what I'd like for you to do is to step into it from the position of your company. And if you were to ask your company, if you talk to the executives, if you talk to the marketing and sales organization, if you talk to operations, how would they rate each of these 5? And I want you to go through each one of the 5 and put a circle in the corresponding box. So, how many of you have complete alignment between your company's perspective and your customer's perspective in all of those 5 areas? How many of you have complete alignment? Well, I just want to let you know that you are the norm then, so thank you for being honest. So, here's what often happens. You have really amazing capabilities within your organization that have not been effectively marketed or effectively communicated to the marketplace. So as a result of that, oftentimes there is a gap. So when you look at those 5 areas, is there one area in particular that stands out for you that you would say, if we could close this one gap, we could really improve our marketplace positioning? And I know that there may be more than one, but if there were one, what would that be? And I want you to circle that label, whatever that is, whether it's product or quality or service, just put a circle around that. And you'll notice on the bottom of the sheet that there's an activity. That activity is, if there were one thing, one action step that your organization could take to close that gap, it's not the whole plan, it's just an action step. What is one action step that your company could do to close that gap? I want to give you a little bit of time to respond to that while it's fresh. So I would encourage you, and the purpose of us doing this is to give you a tool to begin the conversation or to continue a conversation that may already be in place right now within your organization. To say, are we better than the marketplace knows us to be? Do we have competencies and capabilities that aren't effectively being messaged out there? And or are there areas, strategic areas, where we actually need to improve? That our competition is significantly creating pressure on us because maybe they've found a way to create business velocity within their organization by streamlining their operations or improving something via technology. This is an opportunity to get everybody on the same page, having a conversation in a very simplistic form that doesn't take 2 days. Now, the action steps might take numerous, right? But this is an opportunity to do that. So here's one more question I'd like to ask you, and if you want to turn the page to the next page in your handout. If I were to ask you right now, imagine that I am a prospect, and you have done an amazing job of convincing me that you have the capabilities to address my solution. But before I take this to my team, the committee, I sit at the desk and I lean over and I look at you and say, I just have one question before I take this forward. And that question is, why should I do business with you? How would you respond to that question? And I know you don't have the specifics behind the situation. In general, how would you respond to the question, why should I do business with you? And I'd like for you to write that answer down on that page. I'm not going to ask you to disclose it, so if you're struggling a little bit, it's okay. But why should I do business with you? So, from my perspective, having worked with sales organizations for my entire life, I can tell you that this is the biggest question that they have. That they look to the company and say, can you help me answer this from your perspective? Because I am the messenger. So if you were struggling at all with this, imagine your sales organization, and this may be another area where you want to go.
Okay, so now that we've got you thinking, what do you have to offer? I'm going to go through 2 areas that I think are going to help you with your external customers. The first being the supply chain. Okay, we're all part of the supply chain. It's just various parts that we're in. Are we the people that are producing the raw materials or converting them? Are we the manufacturer? Are we the distributor? Or are we the customer? In any case, we're part of that supply chain. So one of the things we want to stress is that you want to become a strategic partner with your customer and potentially your vendors, right? Because this is where you're going to make the difference. Your competition either is not thinking of this, or maybe they're just too lazy to go out there and be proactive in the supply chain. So some of the things as a strategic partner we want to look at are how can we impact that customer's business in a positive way. We want to make them look good, right? The person we're dealing with. We want to also, in addition to supplying product on time for a good price and quality, which we said at the beginning is really just expected, what's the next level that we can go to? So for an example, and every company is going to be a little bit different, but for an example, you might decide you're going to go out and spend some time with them. You might go through and do an online, by online I mean in the manufacturing environment. You might go to the front line and see where your product is actually being used, right? How are they using your product? You think, well, the salespeople, they probably should have done that already. Well, yeah, they probably should have. But I think if you go out there and you really spend the time with them, watching how they're using it, you're going to get a different perspective than what the salespeople came back with. I suggest that you also, as you're doing that, look for other opportunities. How can you add additional value to that customer's supply chain in such a way that you're going to make them look good? You might get additional business out of it, but most of all, where is your expertise? You guys have a lot of knowledge in this room. And to go out into the supply chain, literally, go out to those customers and spend the time looking at who are their customers, what are they doing with the product that you've sent them, and how is that going to be used in the next phase of the manufacturing process, right? So when you look at that and you understand who their customer is, you might change a few things. Maybe you don't need as good of packaging. Maybe you don't need overnight delivery. Maybe you do need something that you're not including today. So this is one of the suggestions that you could do is kind of go out and do an online audit. Become that strategic partner. Share with them what it is that you're doing with your company that maybe they don't even know about, right? Because they could learn something about you that also will be valuable to them. You guys bring a lot of knowledge to that manufacturer, and sharing that information with them is going to be very important. You might be able now to develop co-plans with them. Might be a consignment situation where they're using a lot of inventory of yours and you're doing constant daily shipments. Maybe that's not the most efficient way to do it. So by taking the time out and going to that facility, understanding what their customers are using the product for, how often, what are their sales going to be like? Are they going to be down next year? Are they going to be up? What can I do to help support them in the best way possible? And oh, by the way, if you guys have any questions in between here, please, or any comments at all, just blurt them out, raise your hand, whatever you're comfortable with. All right, so you could, as I was saying, the consignment might be one of the ideas that you have. You might do a BMI with them. But I think the important point is really just to spend some quality time with the people that are your customers and understanding the whole chain. You might spend time with their vendors. You might find out that you have a different supplier. They're struggling with a certain supplier that they have. You might have a relationship with some other supplier that's going to help them improve their process. So the whole point here in being involved in the supply chain at this level is that your competition is most likely not doing this. Another suggestion you might look at for becoming that thought leader in your industry. Again, you guys have a lot of knowledge and you want to share that. There's a lot of different ways to share that information. Some people are blogging, right? So on your website or maybe you're part of a magazine, you're able to share your thoughts about the industry. Not necessarily your product per se, but about your industry. What do you know about it that other people should know as well? You could do white papers, where you'll do a case study with a very successful application of your product in the industry. Sharing that knowledge, the success. How did that project that you did with that customer, how that product that you supplied, how did it impact their profitability? Did it? If it didn't, well, then don't use that one. Then use, maybe it was a help the environment. Maybe something you're doing is helping the environment. That's going to be very popular right now. It's also, a good thing for all of us to be aware of is the environment, right? Or it could be that you're helping them with some social aspect of their business. Then another suggestion could be a light paper. So a white paper being, very detail-oriented, case study, a lot of facts and figures. A lighter style paper, one that is really just talking about the topic, helping them understand some of the key points. Some other suggestions could be a newsletter. I'm sure some of your suppliers probably send you newsletters. And when you look at them, the ones that are interesting to you are probably teaching you about something you didn't know about, or maybe diving deeper into something you do already know about, but adding additional facts. Those are a couple ideas. Christine and I were talking the other day about YouTube, having a YouTube channel, and this doesn't have to be a big production. It doesn't require a lot of, setup and videographers and all that kind of stuff. You can do them pretty plainly. The example Christine had for our discussion was about Briggs and Stratton, I think it was the president, CEO, in his garage, showed you how to change the oil in an engine. I mean, how simple, right? But how effective to show your customer how to use your product or how to maintain your product or something of that nature, something where you're adding value, showing them how to do something, or maybe how you make their product. And how kind of cool would that be to see their product going through the plant that they could then share with other people within the organization. Okay, so there's a couple. Supplying, a lot of us in the room probably share with each other, hey, did you read that book, or did you read this book? This is great, I learned something about it. Take that to another level even. Send the book, but highlight some things within there that you know that specific customer is going to find of value. Don't just send them a book and say, hey, read this. Some people will, some people won't. Or articles, forwarding articles that have been written that will help them. Always just kind of have your employees' mentality that they're looking for these types of things. So those are just a couple that I had listed as the whole point here, though, is that you're trying to up their game too. You're trying to be a partner with them, as we said before, a strategic partner, trying to make them better and make them look good. Okay?
So how many of you have ever received outstanding customer service by someone who hated their job? Raise your hands. Yeah. So it doesn't work. So one of the things that we need to do as leaders within a company is we need to look at how are we building a culture, how are we creating an environment where people love to work. Let's start with why people actually leave the company. There are 7 top reasons why people leave the company. First and foremost, they don't appreciate, respect, or get along with their boss. How many of you have ever had that situation? Don't have to raise your hands, but we have all had bosses, right, that couldn't wait for them to get promoted, demoted, or, one in particular, cut it off to jail. Second, have you ever worked in an environment where you didn't feel connected with others? That you were doing the work, but you didn't have that feeling of connectivity, of community. Because in essence today, we're building environment, we're building, I really want to say, an environment, a forum, where people are coming to work, but it's really a community of work. And is that happening? Some people don't feel connected to the work. I'm just doing this stuff, but it doesn't mean anything to me, and I don't know what the value of it is. I had a client of mine who was a plastics manufacturer, and they made these little widgets. These widgets went into really important elements. So the president of the company, with every employee that was hired, took that employee to the manufacturing floor and said, see this little widget? Let me show you what it does. And on the wall, there would be a picture, in this particular case, of a man riding a Harley Davidson with his son, and said, this widget makes those memories possible. And then moved over, see this widget here, bigger widget. This goes on a drill. They're drilling for oil. You know what this does? This makes it safe for all of those people that are there to come back to work the next day without an injury. And then she walks them through each step, so every employee understands that it's not just the widget, but it's what it does. It's how it adds value. How many of you ever attended meetings, great conversation, you were fired up, but then nothing happened? Oh, not your company, okay. So it's difficult sometimes to mobilize ideas into action, and we get tired of having the same conversation and not having anything happen. Your top performers want to make magic happen. Another scenario in companies is people don't have the relationships to get the work done. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I've been told, hey, why don't you go make this happen? But the people that I was calling at that time, they looked at me and they said, why would I talk to you? They weren't instructed to do it, and it wasn't as if they had free time to do it. Do you know anyone in your company that has free time, an extra 2 or 3 hours a day to do a special project? No, it's all about negotiating. What do you say yes to and what do you say no to? And 6, people don't have the systems to get the work done. It's a great project, great idea, but we can't mobilize it. We have too many people in too many different areas of the country. How do we get this in such a way that we can all be accountable to each other? How do we do that? Actually, Bridget's going to answer that in just a moment. And finally, when people aren't proud of the company, the brand, or something that's happened. We all read about those things in the newspaper, right? So what do we do about that? One of the things we want to be looking at as leaders within a company today is it's not just about promoting the product or the brand or the offering, but importantly, we need to be thinking about who are we as an employer? What is our value proposition to candidates? And some of the things that are important today is it's not just that value proposition that's tied to pay, because oftentimes we make the mistake that compensation is everything, but we know today, particularly the millennials are teaching us that that is not the most important thing. A study conducted by Verse and by Deloitte showed that 95% of candidates today are looking more for culture in a company, so the experience of working in your company, as opposed to compensation. So that value proposition that we had to complete was really about your service and product offering. You also want to have a value proposition as an employer. Because fanatical customers, they're the result of fanatical employees. Because fanatical employees are contagious. You can't teach that. You can give them all the tools, but it's their choice to show up. Today we know that employees want career paths and they want experiences. So if I'm going to join your company, how are you going to make me better than when I knocked on your door? How are you going to make me more strategic, more capable, more whatever? What investment are you going to offer to me? What experiences are you going to provide? Are you going to give me flexibility in terms of how I do my work? Because I promise you the work will get done. Does it matter if I do it remotely? If I have to take my mother to go to the hospital because she has cancer, is that an issue with the company if I'm going to work until midnight and still get it done? This is no, no. And the millennials today are saying, no, you're not offering me an opportunity to integrate my work life because, by the way, the work-life balance thing, it was all in that. You can't be spending 8 and 10 hours someplace and then going home and having 3 or 4 hours to call that balance, right? It was a good idea, but people made a lot of money on that one. And employees today want to make a difference. They want to be responsible for the choices that they make. And that's why it's important. How are you going to invest in me? Because I want to be smart about the decisions I'm making for the company. I want to make a meaningful difference. That's the big one. How are you going to help me make a meaningful difference? And they demand transparency. So if you tell me these are your company values, and people are violating them on a consistent basis, and they get to keep their jobs, explain to me how that formula works. Because if they get to keep their jobs and this is okay with you, then I'm going to go find someplace else where integrity is part of the culture. We know today, just some statistics that are in your handout today, that 41% of all candidates, they search for what your company culture is before they actually apply. So when you go back, look at your website, look at all of the portals where you have information about your company as an employer brand and say, what are we communicating about who we are? What is it like to work in our company? Do we have videos that say day in the life of? What testimonials are you offering in terms of employees to say this is a fabulous place to work for these reasons? so that it's not just marketing, it's true experiences validated. We know today that 88% of grad students and young professionals, that they want a company that is socially responsible. So if you are making a difference in the community, please put that out there so people can know about that. Here's the big one. Companies with high trust cultures outperform companies with low trust cultures by 300%. So when I come to work, I feel safe and I trust you and I know that you have my back and I have your back in return. That's the transparency, that's the integrity within the company. We have a challenge going on here in the United States, and that's the fact that 90% of executives say their frontline managers are competent to be able to be true leaders. And the impact that's happening is there's a lack of engagement, there's a lack of productivity, there's high turnover, there's an issue with quality. Why? Because you have frontline leaders who have the largest population reporting to them who are not competent to be leaders. Not that they don't have the capability, but they have not been trained. When we look at Harvard Business Analytics, they released a study back in 2014 that shows what are executives saying in terms of the competency of their frontline leaders. On the bottom of this list, 19% of frontline leaders are inspirational leaders. 20% are competent to develop talent. What is that saying? It's saying we have tremendous upside potential. That's what it's saying. We have good people who are doing the best they can with what they have, and with a little bit more support, could be outstanding potentially. So we know that 94% of employees who have managers who have their back, who are engaged with them, they stay around. So it eliminates the issue of turnover in a company. Loyalty is high, and to have fanatical fans, if you want to create fanatical customers, you want to have fanatical employees. So some of the major initiatives that are going on, no surprise here, huge initiatives behind leadership training. And I'll share with you that leadership isn't about the title. Leadership is a mindset. Leadership is the ability to be able to influence other people. So when you think about how are we setting our team members up for success, are you equipping them with the knowledge and skills they need to be able to do their jobs well? Additionally, a big initiative that's happening, I know GE is leading this way, Accenture is also a part of it, is the need to simplify the workplace, to simplify the work. Today, 74% of employees feel overwhelmed by the volume of work, the amount of work they have to get done, and the volume of messages that they are receiving. How many of you are dreading going back tonight and looking at your emails? Just saying. How many of you would really like to have a really strong drink tonight and deal with it in the morning? I vote for option 2. Well, it's part of the challenge today because we know that 60% of employees' time is block time. It's meetings that they are required to attend. They have 40% of their discretionary time available to get the right work done. Are we setting our team members up for success or not? So something to look at in terms of the organization, and it's not just about streamlining the operations in terms of the manufacturing operations. How do you streamline the company to give your employees the best opportunity to engage and do their best work?
Okay, so now we're going to talk about mobilizing the plan. So, we've given you a couple ideas on how to engage employees, and a couple of ideas on how to engage customers. It's a lot of information to absorb, but you're probably going, oh my gosh, I gotta do my day-to-day job, and now you want me to do all this other stuff. Okay? So what we want to talk about now is how do we use collaborative technology to just make our day-to-day job simpler, first of all. Second, how can we actually improve upon the day-to-day job and even excel at that. So I'm going to go through a couple, 3, 4 different examples of some technologies that you may have seen. Maybe you haven't seen them yet, but they are available today. These are not new. One would be, say, a customer's sales portal. Okay, so this is a tool that might be available in your existing ERP. It might be something that a web developer can help you with. Just really depends on what systems you might have already in place. But the point of this tool is really for our external fan. We want to give them access to things 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because that's the world that we're living in today, isn't it? I mean, think about when you want to buy something and it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you just go on your computer and you order, right? That's the world that our customers are probably living in as well. So we want to make it easy. Can they look up quotes, for an example? Existing quotes, or maybe get a quote from you, depending on your product. That may or may not be possible. It might be configurable, but then again, the technology is there to do that. They might want to just see the status of their order. Do they have to wait for you to come in the morning so they can get that information? They should have it at their fingertips very quickly, very easily. Collateral material. I'm not going to go through each one of these squares, but the collateral material, maybe you have some drawings, you have some video clips, as we suggested earlier, or you have some brochures, you might have a manual about your product, but just make it very easy to do business with you. Have that information easily accessible to the right people in the right place. Or it just might be the status. Has it shipped? When will it ship? How did it ship? When's it going to be delivered? All things that they can get each one of these pieces of information today, probably somewhere, but bringing it in together into a nice simplistic portal. Going to make you look a little different than your competition. Going to make you a little more with the times. Does anybody have a portal in here? Yes,
I
go
have a
ahead.
question about this.
Sure.
What do you see as the usage on those customer sales portals? The experience that I have with multiple purchasing people is because of the needs of, I now have 100 different companies I buy from, I have 100 different sales portals with 100 different usernames and passwords, and it becomes mush.
Sure.
Is that something that it becomes, all you're doing is now complicating and really trying to technologically take away the relationship aspect?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. So the relationship aspect is important, right? But what I'm suggesting is some of these questions that they're asking are probably just simple questions that they want access to and they don't want to have to wait. You're right, does a purchasing guy or gal want to go into 100 different portals and look at information? Maybe, maybe not. I guess it's really going to depend on their position and what they're doing. But giving them the option, right? It's not that they will, but if you give them the option. Our younger, and I see a lot of young people in here, they don't have the same want or desire to always pick up the phone and call. And some of us older folks don't either. It's getting to a point where we just have so much going on. I don't want to go, I got to wait till 8 o'clock when Judd gets in. I just don't want to do that. So you give them the option. So you're right, they may not use it, not all of them, but there will be some that will, depending on your product and your customer.
Do you have any sense of percentages that tend to use customer portals when available? I'm looking at it as a cost benefit. There's a cost to adding this for any organization. Obviously, the cost varies depending on how it's et cetera. But if the average usage is 1% of customers will use it, and it's going to cost you $100,000, I'm moving on to the next step.
Another excellent point and question. I don't know if you all heard that, but before if I was the person who's doing the launch of this, I would probably look at my business, right? It's not going to be right for everybody. I'm going to look at my purchasing people, I'm going to look at my customer and say, is this going to provide value to them? Is the ERP system that I have already have this built in? Because that's obviously not going to be the $100,000 option, that's going to be a lesser cost option. So I'm going to have to ask those questions ahead of time. I'm sorry, I don't have a statistic for you, But I will look that up if you give me your card after. I'll see what I can find out for you on that. And I can email anybody else. I'll put it on the little app or something if you're interested in the answer to that. Great questions. Any others about?
I would think the international customer realization.
Now there's an excellent point, right? Because we are on different time zones. I know I've been dealing with Germany a lot lately and Vietnam, and that's 12 hours. Vietnam is.
I think it depends a lot if you have repeat customers and somewhat of a standard product line. Obviously, McMaster does that better than anybody else in the world at this, but other
Project-based
companies.
customers are struggling more.
Right, because it made to order. Yeah.
Well, but the make to order, now remember, and maybe it's not as obvious from just looking at this slide, but a customer portal can be responsive to a sign-in. So if I'm a custom manufacturer, it's not going to bring up your information for him. It's going to bring up his information for him. So those types of, tweaks can be included in these types of things. But yes, McMaster car, anybody who sells a standard product, there it is easy breezy. So there might be a little effort there. Again, trying to make people as efficient as possible, freeing up their time so they can think about some of the things that Christine was talking about, giving them the opportunity to reciting UPS numbers and looking up order tracking information or statuses, to do some of these things we talked about earlier and making their job a little bit more meaningful as well. Okay, another tool, and I do use this one, it's called Basecamp, but there are all kinds of them, there's probably 100 of these things. What this is a collaboration tool. It's a SaaS product, software as a service, usually has a nominal fee. This particular one is like $20 a month, okay, for a limited number of projects. But the point of this tool is to collaborate both internally as well as with your customers if you have such collaboration needs. What's nice about this is right now, your email, if you wanted to look at a project that you were working on, you might type in project A, and get all the emails to come up. This organizes your thoughts. You do your discussions instead of via email, via a tool, something like this. So it keeps track of when the last updates were made. It's got calendars, it's got activities, who needs to do what when. So this example just kind of shows getting prepared for this event. And the people we needed, Christine and I, were communicating through here, and Katie and so forth. So this is a really excellent tool and very, very affordable. Internally, if it's just an internal project, you might have, your ERP system might also offer this type of a tool. This is just an internal collaborative tool for just employees. And it might have things like alerts, things that will pop up, and instead of a person coming in, logging in and going, what should I do today? It's going to alert them. Okay, there's a problem in this area. Or it might say, these are the tasks you have to do today. Organizing all this information, these calendars, these emails, these 4 or 5 or 6 different places they have to go to find information. Consolidating it, making it much more interactive and proactive. We're helping these people do their jobs better. And posts. The example up there is the maintenance group. A machine is down. The people that customer service probably need to know that. They want to know when it's going to be fixed, who's fixing it, when are the parts going to start being produced again. So, and then on the bottom there's just some little charts that show different trends and things. So again, just an example, this might already be part of a system that you own, and if you're not using it, I definitely suggest that you do. Employee portals. These are also becoming very, very popular. They might be offered by your payroll company. There's a company called Zenefits I happened to run across the other day. And what they do is they take all that information that your employees want and need. Like they want to ask for time off. All right, well, so they go to the manager. He says, yeah, take that time off. Forget to record it. Oops, and then they're gone. But just that request and recording that request. It might have insurance information, you can usually pull that together so they can find their doctors and their health cards and their benefits so they know what they're gonna run into. Open enrollment up there, personal information, they change their address. Yes, sir.
Wouldn't this be a little bit of a honeypot for some hacker to get into?
Well, usually, I'm gonna tell you, the companies that host these types of products, it's a great question, right? They have way better security than what you and I can afford, right? I mean, this is their business, they have to make sure it's secure. But it's a really good point. A lot of people are worried about things up in the cloud. And this particular one wouldn't even have to be hosted in the cloud. There are companies that do have software as a service, but there's other ERP systems that actually just include it as part of their HR system, that piece of it. And one you probably have all thought about or are using, contact relationship management, CRM. Your customers, when you go out to them, they don't really care what you know about your product, they care what you know about them and can remember. So here's where you're going to be able to have your notes and look at that, look at information about them, their likes and dislikes, and all those kinds of things that are going to make it more personal. When the salesperson, this is a support tool for that person, but anybody really, customer service, anybody could really use the product and they're mobile. I don't know how many people in here actually are in sales, but if you are in sales, you don't want to have to write down all your notes, go back to your office, and key them into some other system. This is just making it a lot more easy. So a couple other technology things you could look at. I'm not going to go through all these in detail, but electronic data interchange. That's another, again, something to help streamline the process of ordering, invoicing, shipping. Workflows. Anybody know what that means? Has anybody heard that term before? Okay, so not too many, but the workflows are usually in a system that if I put in a new customer, it's going to tell credit department to do a credit check, put the order in, it's going to tell engineering to start building the bill of material and do the routings and so forth. So the workflow just keeps things organized. Very effective tool. Back to Christine's point before earlier when she said, we have all these messages coming at us and we have to organize our thought. These are just some tools to help you with those types of things. SharePoint, Office 365, Microsoft tools, putting your email somewhere that everybody can get to it easily. We converted to this about a year ago. I love it. It's awesome. An intranet transparency, Christine talked about. Having all of different types of documentation about the company that you're willing to share and should be sharing. Expense reporting, I could go on and on and on with a lot of different tools. I picked a couple of these that I thought were probably the most, going to give you the most impact. And the whole point of a lot of these is to give that company, or excuse me, that employee fan or customer fan the ability to access information on demand, right? So this gentleman here is saying, they want me to go to the office, but I can't remember where it is, right? So that they can work remotely, that they can do things and have their work-life balance. They can have the time to be innovative, have the time to think about things beyond the day-to-day, I gotta go back and do my email. Google actually has a program, they call it their 20% creativity program, where 20% of an employee's time has to be spent doing creative projects. They collaborate with another department or something and come up with new ideas. That's a little one maybe you want to take back and try. So there's a lot of different ways to attack this. Some of them are technological. Wanted to just try to bridge that gap for you. Give the people the ability to do their job more easily. Give your customers the ability to do the job with you more easily. Christine?
So far we've taken you on the journey of creating fanatical customers, and we talked about the fact that there's technology available to help facilitate and simplify the communications within an organization. And To deliver great customer service, great service through the whole chain, you need Fanatical employees, and part of that process is really understanding what's important to the company. Because every single day, all of us are challenged with what do we say yes to and what do we say no to. Because we're not going to be able to get our to-accomplish list completely done every day and every week. We're going to get the big things hopefully accomplished, and there's usually carryover to some degree. So we wanted to just take a moment and say, it's important to create strategic alignment within an organization. Because marketing and sales will go out there and they'll create new customers who, I just want to share with you, think about when you make a decision. The decision maker says, I'll do business with you, and they're smiling. But when they walk away, what are they saying? What do you say after you make a big decision? Is it something to the degree of, I really hope they're as good in real life as they were on paper in our conversations? Is there just a little bit of doubt? Part of what's really important in an organization is alignment, that strategic alignment, so that everybody shares the commitment. And it's not about those customers who are doing it again and go tell them that we can't get it done because the machine is broken. It's, we made a commitment, how do we deliver? What do we do? It's a different response. So we simply wanted to say, the vision of an organization is really important because that's what excites people. Are we going to be the undisputed worldwide leader in whatever we do, or the domestic leader? That fires people up. Your values are the non-negotiables. It's how we behave and how we get the work done. And our leaders need to be modeling that at all levels of the organization. And then the value proposition. This is what we promise. Are we as good as we're promising? Are we actually structurally set up to be able to meet those expectations? And then you have the mobilization. The mobilization of what your goals are. Growth, this pillar here, marketing and sales. Are they in alignment? Are they supporting each other? Operation. Productivity is the operations, which is the whole organization. How are you streamlining how you're operating your workflow? Innovation. In your company, it could be R&D, it could be engineering, it could be the combination of marketing and engineering. Where are the great ideas within your organization? Next, delighting the client. That's the commitment. Because when they're walking around saying, oh, I hope they're as good as they said they're going to be, and you wow them, they then relax and say, thank you. This doesn't happen often. And then great places to work. When you have really happy employees who love what they're doing and knowing they're making a difference, they're going to go to bat in making sure that the integrity of that promise is honored. So how do you bring strategically all of those elements together so everybody is operating on the same page?
Okay, so the last activity, okay, so in your handout, the last page, you put together a Fanatical fan assessment. And what we'd like you to do is take a few minutes to go through. And what the questions that are there will help you to determine where you stand. We want you to rate it on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being the lowest, we're not doing this very well, terrible. 5 being the highest, yeah, we've got this nailed, and 3 kind of in the middle. And then in the last column, the action steps, anything that you rated yourself a 3 or lower, try to think of 1 or 2 action steps that you can take when you get back to start working on that area. So take a few minutes and see if some of these questions, if there's any questions on the questions, let us know. But we want you to take this back then when you're done and get with, if you're the boss, get with your team. If you're not the boss, get with your boss, and start going through some of these things, because I think the tools that we tried to help introduce here today are going to give you the foundation to go back and work with your team to come up with the solutions that are going to help you to have those fanatical fans. So just take a few minutes. Does anybody have any questions about this last exercise assessment or any of the other information that we've given so far? We're going to wrap it up, don't we? No? Okay. So just to summarize for you what we've done here today, we've tried to go over and talk to you about the two different types of fans that we want to have within our companies. Because as we said at the beginning, 4 to 6 people get told about a good experience, 12 to 16 are going to be on the negative side, right? So externally, we want everybody to be happy and cheering and saying, I just love that company. They're going to recommend you. That's really the end result. Will they recommend you? If they recommend you, you've done your job. Internally, the same thing. So a picture of the kitty, right? The kitty was screaming into the microphone. Not going to give a good result on the other end. The person listening to that conversation, I think we all have had a conversation with a customer service person having a bad day. You want to give them better customer service than that person would be. We talked about wants and needs versus expectations. Satisfying their wants and needs, first thing we have to do. We can do some of that easily. Some of it's going to take a little more thoughts. Might take some technology just to bridge the gap between it. And accelerate the success. Do I have anything to that? That is all we have to present today. If you have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear them. And I think we're going to be told you have a survey.
First, let's have a hand for Bridget. We had promised 2 fanatical speakers about a great topic. Again, as I challenge all of us to think about what do our employees think about our organization, what do our customers think about our organization. And the ladies going through, I think, some great tools for which to start to explore that, to measure it, to understand where you are and what sets yourself apart. As promised, the best presentation after lunch. What stands between you and cookies and beverage is this. You and cookies.